Hello and welcome to Talk a Good Game. It's a Stoke City against West Ham United. West Ham under David Moyes got 4 points from 9 in their bonus games, but now we move on to the must-win games. Or is it must-win? Well, that's what we're here to discuss. Gonzo, as always, what's your thoughts on our opponents, Stoke City?
Well, as we might be slightly higher in confidence than we were a few weeks ago, Stoke are lower in confidence. It's been rumoured that this may well be Mark Hughes' last game. So 2 games ago, he was given the rumoured, dreaded 2-game. It's not a vote of no confidence because Peter Coates has actually come out today, so he doesn't know what all the fuss is about. But it's a bit of a public secret, if you like, that he had 2 games left. This is his 2nd game. Relied a little bit too much on Peter Crouch, I think, as well. Obviously, they sold Marko Arnautovic to us, which I'm sure we're going to go on to discuss. And they brought in, I think it was Jesse Rodriguez. I'm not sure if they brought him directly from Real Madrid, but he was previously of Real Madrid. Started off well, hasn't really worked out for him. I believe Kurt Zouma is missing this weekend. And I think Saido Berahino may well be eligible and may well be drafted straight back in. I mean, they're desperate for goals, aren't they? As I say, they're reliant on Peter Crouch, but it's a club in crisis, really, a club low in confidence. And yeah, I mean, typically the club where we might struggle against, having done well against Chelsea and Arsenal. So there you go.
Do you think he should be sat there, Mark Hughes? Like you said, the fans were singing, "You don't know what you're doing" in the last game. To be fair, it was at the time it was 0-0 away to Burnley, and he took off Shaqiri, which sparked the calls. They've lost 4 of their last 5. Is it time to chop Hughes, or do you think it's a case of Stoke fans need to sort of, a bit like what Coach is saying, and say, what is the problem here? We're still mid-table-ish in the Premier League. What's the issue?
Well, of course, the irony of all ironies would be if they did sack Mark Hughes and they found themselves in that position, who would be the perfect person to get them out of it? Step forward Tony Pulis, the guy that they got rid of and brought Hughes in to improve the football. So does he deserve it? I'm not sure. He's had a lot of football clubs, Mark Hughes. Had a lot of goes at a lot of football clubs. Seem to remember him walking away from Fulham because he said he wanted a bigger and better job. He was going to bigger and better things. Of course, he never really happened for him at Man City. Felt a bit sorry for him, actually, because he was the one that bought company. He bought Zabaleta as well, and he was actually building a team. And then I'll never forget that, because they came in, they bought the whatever kind, don't know what they're called, but I mean, Abu Dhabi, aren't they? The Abu Dhabi royal family bought the club, and they bought it just before transfer deadline day. And you never forget that sort of shocked expression of Mark Hughes' face. He had his arm around Robinho. I think, what the fuck's going on here, sort of thing. I think he's had his chance in many respects. I think that he is at his level. Does he deserve to get sacked? Possibly not, because they haven't really invested an awful lot of money, to be perfectly honest with you.
From Robinho to Peter Crouch, and therein lies the problems. I think he does. Does he deserve to get sacked? Maybe not. But you know something, I've got no issue with Stoke fans calling him for him to be sacked. If they're fed up with crap football, they're fed up with losing football, then fair play to them for calling him to be sacked. That's up to them. That's their prerogative. It's just like us with Bilic and Allardyce, etc. It's up to their fans what they want. They're the ones that watch their team week in, week out. It's just easy for us outside looking in, going, well, you're 15th in the league here. What's the issue? To be honest, for some reason, I really don't like Stoke City. It's one of those clubs I actually would like to see them get relegated. I don't know why. I just do. I think it's their style of football, and it's probably off the back of what Pulis did and his reputation of this hardcore, hard bully type football. And the irony is they got bullied by Burnley midweek. Stoke City, the one team that you didn't think would get bullied, end up getting bullied. But that's the problem, though. When you are relying on Peter Crouch, that just shows how poor you've been in the transfer market, etc. You shouldn't be relying on Peter Crouch. But then again, last season we were relying on James Collins, weren't we? No clean sheet in 7 games, so Gonzo. Are Stoke City, in your opinion, going to get relegated or not? We're almost halfway through the season now.
Yeah, it's a tough one. We had somebody started a thread today and said, I know it's early days, but pick your 3 for relegation. And I didn't have them down there. I can't remember who I picked now. I think I thought Brighton had come back into it. Swansea certainly. I can't remember my other one was. Maybe it was West Brom. Was it West Brom? Cheers, thanks, mate.
I don't know, but that's my team.
Yeah, that's right. It may well have been. I can't remember what I wrote on the thread. But then I remember after posting, I thought, I forgot about Stoke. And certainly in my mind, I thought they could well be in amongst it. It's he is a funny one, Hughes, I've got to say, because he's a pragmatist and he does like them to work hard, you know. But he was brought in for better football, so I struggle to see where the goals are coming from. What I did say in the post was, whoever's going to survive is going to be someone that can. He is a hell of an advantage if you do have a goal scorer. Now, I know Sunderland went down with Jermaine Defoe and all the rest of it, but it does help if you have a goal scorer. And I'm not into. I think Berahino, for all his promise, has got a woeful record. I mean, he's scored a goal in a cup. You know, I don't know. I don't think he's scored a goal in 18 months. Don't know the stat, but a long, long bloody time. So unless they get that sorted, they're going to be in with a shout going down. Can't score goals, leaky defence. Recipe for relegation, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got that conundrum just now. I've seen some Stoke fans saying that he wants to play 4 at the back. Oh, sorry, he wants to play 3 at the back, actually, and they're crap at it, but they look better at 4. The problem is, like you said, they're missing Kurt Zuma, and this Spurs player they bought for 80 million, Kevin Wimmer, I think that's how you pronounce his second name, has apparently been absolute rubbish at Stoke, and they're fearing him playing, which gives me confidence. And in a 4-4-2, it means Shaqiri's restrained because he's playing right mid with defensive responsibilities. I think they are candidates for that 3rd relegation spot. I think Swansea and West Brom are in trouble. I think them 2 are in trouble, and I think that last spot comes down to 5-6 teams. I think all 3 promoted sides will be in there. Stoke, you could maybe put us in there as well. Crystal Palace. I think there's a lot of teams. But anyway, enough about Stoke. Let's talk about our team. Gonzo, we've been playing 5-3-2. Last 2 games, we played well. Do you stick with the same formation for this one?
No, well, I wouldn't, but I think Moyes will, but I think he will stick with the formation, but I think he'll tweak it. So I think you'll have roughly the same shape, but I think we'll probably play a higher line. And rather than there be sort of one isolated bloke up top a lot of the time, I have a feeling he might have some support. So maybe in this game, even though it's away from home, he still might be cautious. Let's be clear on that. He might be tempted to perhaps play Chicharito as that forward, but then just make sure Arnautovic is a lot closer to him the whole time, or something like that. But yeah, I think you'll still see the 3 centre backs, as in Cresswell and the other 2 there, with the Masuaku and Zabaleta wide of 3 central defenders. I think you'll still see that.
Is that what you would do if it was you? Is that what you would do?
No, I would go for it. I would go for it. I would definitely play Chicharito. I've not thought about it much, to be fair. I mean, the brutal honesty is I've thought much more about Stoke, the question you can ask me about Stoke, as you can probably tell, because I don't know about Kurt Zuma and stuff like that, than I've thought about West Ham, so just assumed he was going to play that. I'd probably go for something a little bit more adventurous. I would be looking this week to see if I could solve that Antonio issue, though. I've got to say, as we say, I don't know if it's illness, fitness, whatever it is. There's something not quite right with Antonio, and I'll probably look to free the shackles on Lanzini. I'm not throwing the baby out of the bathwater. I've read a lot of things today, actually, and some sort of naughty comments suggesting some of the fans want him out. I don't think they do. I don't think that's the case at all. And I hope he doesn't feel that. So I'd like to see him liberated, able to join Chicharito and maybe Arnautovic. What system I play, I don't know, but I'd liberate a few of them and allow them to attack.
I would stick with the 5-3-2, although I would just take the shackles off a couple of players. I say to Masuaku and Zabaleta, you two need to get forward a bit more, and Lanzini, you need to get forward a little bit more. Just play a more attacking version of the 5-3-2, because it then means I don't want to see it so much, and it is early days, but once we get points on the board, this has to stop. But once we go a goal up, we can revert to the defensive 5-3-2 like that, and we can protect the lead, if you like. To be honest, I get what you're saying about Lanzini. I don't think I've seen many people. And I've always said, as you know, I've straight away said, how is Lanzini going to fit the boys? I actually think it's no coincidence Lanzini's gone deeper, and Noble and Obian's look better. It's because they've got someone to pass to, even outside our own box. You've seen it against Arsenal. There's a few times Reed got the ball inside our own 18-yarder. He toe-poked it to Lanzini. Now, usually he would punt it, but he was confident that he was getting to someone that could turn around and move with the ball. And no one's been too critical of him, but this is a game that you have to get Lanzini involved a little bit more. But one change that is absolutely forced. Winston Reid got his 5th yellow card against Arsenal, so we'll miss this weekend. Gonzo, who would you bring in that centre-back role?
I'll probably bring in the old Collins for this one, actually. I think, I think Stoke, I don't think they've got options. I think we'll see Peter Crouch at some point. So with that in mind, I probably would, just for this one, put the old Ginger Pele in there.
I'm the opposite. I'd be putting in Declan Rice. If Chiati was fit, we don't know if he is fit. He's been back in training, but I don't know how fit he is. And for you, I don't know. Collins was on the bench against Arsenal, so he is fit. But I would have Rice in there. I want to see us start to build for next season a little bit. A bit more youth in the side, a bit more pace, a bit more energy. And while we talk about, we mock Stoke with Peter Crouch, well, we'd be doing the same if we brought in James Collins ahead of Declan Rice, in my opinion. Now, I know that they're good in the air, Stoke, but so is Giroud and so is Morata. Both of them never had a sniff against our three centre-backs the last two games, so I'd be bringing in Declan Rice for that one. Now, the only other question I think we can really discuss with the starting 11 is what do you do with the guy who has looked a little bit iffy, and that is Antonio. Would you start him for this one, Gonzo, or is this where you'd be doing your change and bringing in Hernandez?
I think I would, and I've got to, I've just got to mitigate that by saying I don't know what's wrong with him. So my guess, and it is a guess, is it's fitness. If not, I mean, there's loads of flus and bugs going around at the moment. I had a bug for bloody 2 weeks. Really, really low on energy. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's why he's getting tired. So whatever it is, even if it's fitness or he's got a bug, I'd give him a rest. I can't imagine it's attitude. He's got a good attitude. Antonio and everyone else has bought into the new regime of David Moyes. So why would he be any different? So whatever it is, I'd give him a week off. Probably wouldn't play him against Arsenal either. I'd probably say to him, look, have a bit of time off. Give him one-on-one. If it's fitness, give him one-on-one with a physio. If it's medical, get him to see the doctor. Get him to put his feet up. Whatever. But I would drop him for this one, but not drop it in a nice way, sort of thing. And yeah, as you say, bring Chicharito in.
Yeah, I would do the same actually. And you call it dropping. I think the correct phrase to stop pissing off the players and rotating him.
Yeah.
I would do the same. It's purely because he has looked knackered very early on in the last two games through no fault of his own. And for that, I'd be looking to change. But also, I think it's almost criminal, might be a bit harsh, but to go to a game against the likes of Stoke, who've lost 4 of the last 5 without a recognised striker on the pitch, I do think if you were to come out of that with a defeat or even a draw, a lot of fans might think, well, come on, mate, you had 3 strikers on the bench there. You should be starting one of them. You need to be going for this. For me, this game has to be 3 points. It absolutely has to be, because all of a sudden you don't win one, you don't win the next one. There's that little gap starts forming, and this must be points. I said it to you, this is not the first time I said it this season. You could pick an opposition for this weekend. I'd probably be picking Stoke City. I'd say them, please. They want the manager out. They've got a couple of injuries that are big injuries. Jesse Rodriguez is away back to Spain for family reasons, so they're missing some big players. Lost 4 or 5. I'm having them, please. For our next 3 games, Gonzo, Stoke, Newcastle and Bournemouth, how many points would you be declaring as acceptable from them?
Well, we're in the relegation zone. We need 6 points. I can't remember what game it was. I don't know. Whenever, just before Moyes came in, maybe. Was looking like we needed the points. Was looking like we needed 10 wins, and I thought there's no way we can get 10 wins. Well, since then we've actually had a win and we've had a draw, and against big teams, and it's looking a little bit better. So now, do I think we can get 9 wins? Actually, do you know what? I'm a bit more confident we can. But if we're going to do it, we need to start picking them up, because we've done crap against some lesser teams, including Newcastle and Brighton and Watford and teams like that. You need to start picking up these points against somebody. So I would take 6 points, and I would. Funny enough, I'd imagine they would actually be against Stoke. In my mind, I would imagine they'd be against Stoke and Bournemouth. Actually, Newcastle a bit tricky. I think they could be, so because the takeover and whatnot. But yeah, 6 points for me.
8 of our last 13 head-to-heads have ended all square between Stoke and West Ham United. Gonzo, how do we win this one, and are you confident?
I should be confident, but there's that whole West Ham thing. Which is we lose against the teams that we really ought to be. We start to do well, and then we shoot ourselves in the foot, basically. Having said that, the backs to the wall performance against Arsenal and against Chelsea was very un-West Ham. So we'll see if David Moyes has got West Ham-itis, and hope he hasn't. Because if he hasn't, then we go there and we do a job. And if we score early, I do think it's game over. I think they're just there. We know what it's like. We've been there as West Ham, as a club. When your confidence is low, you know, you can almost, they become like a colander if the first one goes in early. So, yeah, I think that's the key. The key to this game is scoring early, and that's if I was in charge. So I'd be instructing to do. I'd be saying, look, the crowd want to get on their back. The manager's under pressure. Their best central defender's out. They can't score a goal. Just get in there and score. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm quite confident for this one, actually. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think we're going to be seeing champagne football anytime soon. But I think it's a case of get points on the board ASAP, then we'll worry about the champagne football later on in the season if we get time. And I think this is a perfect example where we might just see that ugly side of football, if you like, where we do get the early goal, we do sit back. But the difference is, these sides are easier to score against on the counter-attack than the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal are probably. And so you never know. One could turn into two quite quickly. We've also got a lot of game changers, even if they are on the bench. But the problem, my only concern is lack of substitutions. You need to start doing them earlier, because while last night 0-0 was good against Arsenal, if we had got beat, if we had lost the game, I would have probably pointing the finger at David Moyes to an extent and said, you, mate, you had 3 subs, you didn't make any until the 81st minute. Everyone can clearly say 2 or 3 players are knackered and you're not doing any subs. How is a player, let's say this one, let's say Antonio's out, how is David Moyes meant to choose who starts and plays for him when you're not giving a player a chance to come off the bench and show that he should be starting the next game? Hernandez did okay when he come on, but surely as a sub, you're sitting there chomping at the bit to get on. You get on for 15, 20 minutes. You should be running yourself into the ground to impress, but they're not getting those opportunities right now. I know there's training, but I do think you need to give them the chance off the bench as well. And I hope that it's just David Moyes being cautious in his early days, thinking, well, it's working just now. Everybody's doing their job. I don't really want to mix it up a little bit. But I would like to see him make some changes and go for it on Saturday. I think he has to go for the 3 points. If we get a point, it sort of says, well, it depends what we get for Newcastle and Bournemouth, because if we win those 2, then a point's enough. If we lose those, a point's no longer enough.
Well, what I would say on that, sorry, they're not doing substitutions, not just tactically within the game itself, the present game. It's also a dangerous policy to have when you're in the run of 2 games a week. So a lot of other teams are at these 2 games a week, which we know we've got. We've got up to the new year. Pretty much. A lot of teams will rotate their squad. Well, if we're not rotating our squad, then we're not keeping our players as fresh as all the other teams are, or dropping player in there, a player out there. Then you've really, actually taking that player off after 65 minutes to give him a rest becomes vital. And you need to be doing 2 or 3 of those sort of substitutions, because if you're going to continually play that same starting 11, they're going to be buggered. And believe you me, that 20-minute break that you don't have to play is going to eventually benefit you as it gets to the Boxing Day match and the day after. I'm a bit worried, particularly with a team that, by all accounts, when he inherited it, was perhaps suspect physically. You don't want to burn the candle at both ends with him.
Yeah, but we'll wait and see. Hopefully on Saturday we see some subs should they be required. But anyway, we both seem reasonably confident. So what's your prediction for this one?
I think we're going to win 2-0 in this one.
I'm going to go 2-1. I don't know why. I'm just going to give probably a Peter Crouch header after everything we've just said. But I'm going to say 2-1. But it's 2 wins from us. Let us know what you think at home. Drop in your comment below if you think we're going to win. And who you would replace Winston Reid with. Would you bring in Collins, Rice or Keati perhaps into the back? Or would you change it up completely and put on a more attacking player and change the formation around a little bit? But also drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We'll be back on Saturday afternoon straight after the game on this channel with our live review. Hopefully celebrating David Moyes' wonder substitutions has won us the game. Thank you for watching.